There's already people in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Me too. We have to be completely quiet and actually Peter, did you pee?
Yep. Oh yeah. Hi, Carolina. Can you?
Hi, Peter.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. All right. I'm just gonna have my chat on.
Yep.
I'm just gonna get some water.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
Yeah.
Hello, Colm.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now let me just see. You can hear me fine. I'm not shouting at you.
Yeah, no, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
I
got
have
a little-
these Star Trek headphones on.
They really are starting. They're a little bit Jar Jar Binks. Do they go around your neck? Is that what
They do. It goes. I'm
Carolina.
well
Hi.
corded in. Yes, that's Carolina up there. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
I think so. Anything last minute I should know?
No, I did. Oh, what's up, Carolina?
Oh no, I just wanted to check with Colm that like if I send you a private message,
Go ahead.
that
Try.
you can see it in the chat.
I got you from
Yeah.
Carolina to me privately, private message.
Okay.
And now
So-
we'll do it later on after people if they have any questions.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing, not sure. Peter, did you make me co-host? Because I can't see it. If I have that.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
So-
Yeah, because I can see that there's 5 people in the waiting room. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So you should be able to let people in and out and all that jazz.
Okay.
Colm and I are in the spotlight view. I think Colm, I think you and I should be the biggest pictures on your screen. Is that right?
Yeah, and so because you're muting everybody else, it'll only be you and I interrupting each other, and possibly Carolina going.
Exactly. And Carolina will have the ability to mute everyone if someone decides to try to get in there. She can shut that down.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
at least
hope.
presumably
Yeah.
all,
Sorry, what was that?
presumably all friends and family and good customers, right? I got a text from Jack with photographs, with the bag with the book in it and the dog looking over, going, "Ready for tonight." Oh, man, it's going to give you one for Christmas, but okay. Good for Peter, good for the shop.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hi,
Oh.
Colin.
Alia saying hi.
Lovely, how are you?
I can't hear you,
I
but
see that.
I'm just saying hi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because
So,
you're wearing the Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I have to get more. If I ever do more of these, I have to get less bright blue.
Yeah, they're cool though. They're pretty cool. It's just it did look a little bit like, where is that going? I thought nice earrings for the show. Good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Turn myself down here a little bit. I've got this little fancy setup from Donna and Anna.
Okay.
Because Donna does so many Zoom calls, she's got lighting, and it turns out it's here in Toronto with Anna because she's doing teaching for 5-year-old Chinese kids for English as a second language, and so she needs to be online, at 3 a.m. with 5-year-old Ming going, "Ball. Me, I'm teacher Anna. throw ball. And apparently this has to be overlit as well as overdone. So we have all of this at our fingertips, which is great for today.
Yeah, that's great. Ali actually got me as an early birthday present some lighting gear, because I've been doing a few of these calls with different people and things and stuff. So I have a ring light behind.
Oh yeah,
That's why
that's it.
I'm lit up.
That's fantastic. Well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
well, after Doug Ford today, you'll be zooming a great deal more. You know?
Yeah, exactly, right. I think I don't know. That's just a whole other conversation, I feel. What people are going to want to do.
Yeah, they're going to need some skills and some curbside pickup and
But that is the way it's going to be. So
yeah, and so we cope. Now, Carolina, how many people are we expecting?
There's already 9 people in the waiting room.
Cool.
But I think Peter said that about 40 tickets were sold.
yeah, about 40,
yeah.
45 people altogether. I mean, there's yeah, give or take. I think at the end there might be some stragglers attending that
Right.
That'll show up, but like definitely your neighbors call them.
Yes. No, I mean, there'll be stragglers. They'll show up at the end.
Exactly.
They get a free pass?
They get a free pass. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I was struggling because a lot of people, like, theoretically should have been able to access a free ticket, but the way I had it on my website was it was really hard to separate giving something away for free and having people buy meat. Like the back end logistics were really so people would try to buy a free ticket and then they were being charged like $30 for a hold. And I was like, Martha actually she that's how I knew. Martha got in touch with me and she's like, so it's saying I have to deliver the Zoom call to Stratford and it's going to cost about $110 to get that delivery. And I'm like, no, first of all, there's no delivery. It's all virtual. Anyway, no.
It's kind of peculiar. Yeah, I saw the site where it said $0, but as I was invited, I didn't feel I had to buy a ticket even for $0. But these things are, it's a learning curve. If you discover that it's something that you should do again, and that there's an easier way to facilitate it, don't hesitate to call. I'm unemployed till about 2022, so I've got time.
Well, so what's going on with the Umbrella Academy then? Like season 2 just came out, and
season 2 came out July 31st, and they've taken till last Thursday. It's been one of the biggest hits they've ever had. It did over 300 billion viewing minutes or some nonsense like that, just ludicrous. And so then they said, oh, we'll see. And on Thursday night, I'm shooting in something else in Hamilton, and the call comes through, we're picked up for season 3. So I misled you slightly. I'm going to be picked up for February of 21. We'll start sort of the end of January, February, we'll rehearse and then start. They're trying to book from February to August, which is fantastic. So that's really amazing news because we've been sitting unemployed. Donna's been producing for the NAC orchestra, so she's busy, but I've been like twiddling my thumbs and tidying the house. And so, and not to mention hemorrhaging money. So this has been, this is welcome news.
Well, no, I can imagine. Well, I definitely appreciate tonight, as you know, but this, it's good to be able to do fun stuff too, like this.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting too when you have, people who are slightly unusual. And so they're, people probably wouldn't assume that we're friends or that we know each other or that I'm more interested in meat and cutting than acting. They probably don't know that. And there's no need for them to know it, but 40 people, we can cope. But if you suddenly get a rush on and they tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends, and you think there's nothing like calculated spontaneity, we can take this on the road. I mean, we could do it again in a week or 2 weeks, just to keep book sales up, and you could refine the methodology if you like. Only because it's just so hard to be agent for yourself. It's so
Yeah.
much easier to be interviewed, to ask questions and, and just field the answers rather than parrot the same kind of calculated, spontaneous answers that you've already, you've answered 1,000 times anyway. You've answered in the book,
Yeah.
you've answered on the website. It's not like you don't know the answer, but
Yeah.
I think anybody who's tuning in is looking for something value added, right? They want, but I know the real Peter Sanagan. Talk to him.
Yeah.
It was just
No,
him
absolutely.
and me. We were online.
Yeah.
So there may be some value in that.
Yeah. Well, I'd be
Yeah.
honored and happy to do more stuff like this. I think there's definitely, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last month, and how this pandemic has kind of made a lot of people, myself included, think about different avenues for reaching people in different ways. And like, people are going to be starving for entertainment this winter. There's nothing, they can't do anything. So, how can engage with them with food in a way that, is exciting and interesting and all that stuff, I think is a really, something really interesting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, and the great thing that I'm sure we'll talk about is that you give us a skill set, and there's a lot of surprises in there, even for people who think they know something about me. They're quirky little bits, stuff you never thought about, how to cut this, what the heck is that piece called? I've never even asked for it. I've seen it, been afraid of it. And you're just being bolder and being a little bit more open, saying, what else was I doing? Sitting here with my kids thinking, could I cook liver and bacon, onions? Yeah, maybe I could. I don't know if I'm going to be peeling my own tongues anytime soon, but, having done it once or twice in a cooking class, I'm going to leave that to the professionals.
That's probably, it's
probably wise, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Carolina, where are you?
I'm also in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, I'm in like the essential services, so it's been just crazy year for us. We do logistics for pharmaceuticals, so
wow.
Yeah, that's where I work. So I got home like around 7 today because we do like radioactive shipments, and there's just a delay with paperwork. It was kind of an insane evening.
Yikes.
Yeah.
But important.
Yeah. Oh, I see it's 7:30. So I can turn off. I'm gonna turn off my video and mute myself, and then I can start letting people in.
You're letting people in. Shall I just start? Or do you?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's keep this casual. Just Carolina, give us the word as soon as everyone's admitted.
All right, I'm about to stop my video and admit people. Let's see. Here we go.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Colm Feore, and I have the great pleasure of being able to chat with and introduce Peter Sanagan, whose new book, Meat Cooking Meat, the Meat Cooking Book. Luckily, he's got a picture of it right over his shoulder, so we're likely not to get that too wrong. And so, Liz, welcome. And this is going to be very, very simple, straightforward, and relaxed, I hope. I want to say, first and foremost, we're probably not going to have nearly enough time in the 40 to 60 minutes that we'll have together, because there's just so much fun stuff to talk about. As a way of establishing background bona fides, I've known Peter for some considerable time because he had the good fortune and the good sense to marry one of my neighbor's brilliant and beautiful daughters. And that brought him into our sphere, and very happily. So we look forward at high holidays and summer vacations to the moments where Peter would come down and let us know what's going on with his life, his story, what he was up to, and then steal all his great ideas for food, because we'd be sharing feasts together, sharing ideas.
Okay.
And just this last summer, I got to see an advanced copy of the book and drool over it. And so I leapt at the chance to introduce Peter and to put him into some kind of context. And one of the things that I am so delighted to be able to do is now put him up on the shelf, the pantheon of the cool guys I know who do meat and whose books I have. And I'm talking Fergus Henderson of St. John. I'm talking Hugh Fernley Whittingstall of River Cottage. I'm talking Dario Cecchini, Machalaya in Chianti, and Pat Lafrida in New York, the third or fourth Pat Lafrida. And along comes Peter Sanagan, who has absolutely established and deserved his place among that great pantheon of folks. I love the shop. I love all the people in the shop. They are delightful, helpful, informative. If you're ever confused, they share Peter's passion and interest and engagement. And so it's a really fun thing to do. Lastly, before I turn to Peter, to give you a level of the kind of passion and commitment they have, whenever I have the good fortune to be working in Toronto with whatever per diem money I get squeezed out of production, I head straight to Sanagan's before heading home. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't call my dear friends and neighbors first to say, hey, listen, I'm standing at the door of Peter's, so do you want anything? More often than not, there's a list. So one time I cross Baldwin, I go into the shop, I'm looking around at the counter because I've got a request. I know what I want, I get a pile, I get a stack, and then I look up gingerly, not seeing anything on the shelves, and I said, listen, goat. I need goat. And the fella looks at me and goes, goat. Well, I don't see any here. I said, would it make any difference to your answer if I told you it was for the boss's mother-in-law? He paused, he said, she want the 1-inch pieces? I said, no, I'll be right back. So with all that said, Peter, the first thing I guess I want to know is, why did you want to open a butcher shop? Prefaced by, you've been a chef, a teacher, and now a butcher. And as a butcher, you're a teacher and a chef. Why a shop?
Well, yeah, no, thanks. Before I say that, before I give you that answer, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming in tonight to watch this. I think it's going to be a really fun night. And it's obviously, I'm proud of the book and everything. And as Colm said, it's full of good things, and all of you, I think, have a copy now, or the majority of you. So I hope you feel the same way. Why did I open a butcher shop? Honestly, it was a bit of the end to a restaurant career, really, because I had been working in restaurants at the time for about 15 years, and the last little while I was a chef at a small inn up near Owen Sound. And when I was there, I was working with a lot of local farmers, getting everything from fish from Georgian Bay, beautiful vegetables and stuff from the local vegetable farmers, and then meat. And we're talking beef, partridge, rabbit, pork, lamb, all these things from these great farmers up there. And what I noticed was, this is back in 2007, I think. So what I found was, when I was back in the city, that there was a bit of a lack of representation of this product in the city. There were some butcher shops, a couple butcher shops that were doing some good work, but generally speaking, and this is something I heard from the farmers too, is that they were finding it hard to get their product into the Toronto market. And I came back to the city, actually to teach at George Brown, but with this idea that it would be really interesting to open a food store. And at the time, it was I didn't really necessarily think it was just going to be a butcher shop, but it was going to be a store that celebrated the bounty of Ontario in our province. Because I think, and at this point, I feel like the word local is a bit of a buzzword now and can be overused. But I really do believe that Ontario has some of the best products in the world, farmed products, and especially meat, because meat people can raise year round. Like it's not it's seasonal in terms of there's different flavor profiles for meat at different times of the year. And certain things are, like turkey, for example, is fresh, good turkey is really available only at either Thanksgiving or Christmas, because that's when the farmers raise it to be ready for. But like generally speaking, meat is something that we offer year round, and the meat in Ontario is it honestly is like some of the best in the world. And I'm not saying that just because like that's what I do. I'm saying that because I've been to a lot of other places in the world. I've tried meat in Italy and in France and in the States, in Hong Kong, and it's all very good and very unique. But there's something quite I think there's something quite uh, what's the word? Like almost like there's a bounty and a generousness that this province and especially the southern half has to offer.
Yeah, well, there's something very particular about our terroir, which is what you're talking about. You're talking, you know, simply about the place where they actually grow up. And our mutual friend Anthony John, who ran Soiled Reputation for the longest time, it was always on about and had the soil tested to prove it that, you know, his Perth County carrots were minerally absolutely different than, you know, miles away, and they had a very unique profile and therefore a unique taste, and therefore that added remarkable value, and you know, they were right on your doorstep. So
well, absolutely. And you like from the stuff that Anthony was doing to like, you know, like the grass-fed beef that I get from a farm near Port Hope outside of Prince Edward County, like these guys are serious about knowing what kind of crops to raise that their animals are going to feed on in order to produce not just like the best kind of marbling in the beef, which is extremely important because you need a certain level of carbohydrates in order to get like that we can go deep dive into grass-fed beef, but like and to get that marbling that doesn't exist in grass-fed beef in other parts of the world, especially when you have farmers that aren't paying attention to the crops in the same way. So yeah, definitely. And Ontario is so varied from Niagara to you know, the Ottawa Valley. Like there's a wide range of terroir, and then also a wide range of farmers that have come to this country, whether they were born and raised here, you know, fifth generation here, or they're new Canadians and bringing techniques of farming and animals. Like I work with a Hungarian, a friend of mine who is raising the Mangalitsa pork, which is the furry pigs, originally from Hungary, in the Niagara region, specifically for charcuterie. So like lardo and cured speck and stuff like that. And the fact that we can do that here in Ontario, like I've had guys come up from New York, the Carolinas, Texas, talking to me saying like, we're like, how do you do this? How do you do all this stuff? I explain it's pretty simple. We just have really good producers. Like my job is pretty easy because of the producers.
Can I put an addendum to the first question about why a butcher shop? And you've talked very compellingly about your growers now. But one of the things that has always struck me is where the hell did you get the balls to open in Kensington? Because of all, you know, the kind of message you're bringing, great product from great growers really close by, take the word local right out of the mix, and then you're going to plunk it down into one of the most diverse, vibrant, and let's face it, cutthroat marketplaces in the town. What the hell were you thinking?
Well, it was what I could afford. and literally, like, so Alia, my wife and your neighbor's daughter, when we were dating, in the first year of dating, this is when I was teaching at George Brown. I was kind of waiting to get back into like the George Brown program to get teaching again. And there was a bit of a miscommunication, and as it turned out, I didn't have a job for September of that year. And it was early August, and I was walking through Kensington Market, which I love, and anyone who's been there loves it as well. Walking through the market, and I saw a big sign for sale on this tiny little butcher shop. There's about 400 square feet, the original Max and Sons, which is one of the original Jewish butchers from the 40s and 50s. It's 400 square feet, which is like a postage stamp of a store. And it had like one quarter of the room was a walk-in cooler. And I know a lot of people on this call remember that old store. And there was a walk-in cooler. There was a bandsaw in the middle of the room where customers could access, if they wanted to, a sausage. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculously small. It was wonderful, and I loved it. And I was there for 3 years before we outgrew it. But literally, it had been for sale. The business was for sale for like 3 months, and I came by and I was like, remember that Ontario store idea I had? Maybe I could do that here. And it's a meat store, and they already had the equipment and whatever. And the guy was just the guy, Solly. His name was Solly Stern. He was looking to retire and make a move, and I was like, all right, well, what's the worst thing worst thing that could have happened is I bought myself a job. You know, and I did, and I bought myself a job that I worked 6.5 days a week at for the first, you know, bunch of years. And you know, it just people are receptive to what we were doing, you know, and that at the end of the day is, I think, the thing that's really propelled me is knowing that, like, the product that we sell and the style in which we sell it is it works, you know. And it's an intuitive thing.
It sure does. I mean, and I know that you moved from that smaller store to the place you're in now, but that while you did that, I mean, you're sort of colonizing the block. I believe you encouraged Hooked to take over your old place. You know, you've got the Great Baker right next door. It's just an absolute epicenter of fabulousness. But so you're in the big shop for a while, things are going really well. You're advising people across the counter. And then you say, I got nothing but time on my hands. Why don't I write a book? What were you thinking?
That's exactly how.
Well, you know, you say, listen, honey, I love you and Desmond. That's terrific. I'm sure you've got stuff to do, but I'm going upstairs now to write a book. You know, that wouldn't fly in my house. So
no, well, it wouldn't fly in my. It didn't fly in mine either. Yeah. No, I mean, one of the benefits of getting to when I started writing the book, it was about just over 3 years ago when they first, they being the publisher, Random House, got in touch with me, and it was they were customers, and I think that's how they drew it. And I had a blog at the time that was, you know, just a blog, and they were intrigued by that, and they said, okay, well, pitch us on something. And I actually pitched them on an idea I had, and it's in the intro to the book, about my brother, because like my brother, God bless him, isn't like, as he told me, isn't a great cook, and wished he could learn more about food and cooking. And I also heard a lot of people in the store, like our customers, saying things like, oh, that's a whole chicken, what do I do with that? And I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, we'd have a lot of those conversations in the store, and I found there's an unfortunate disconnect between you know, meat and the general consumer now. There's like a lot of people that don't know what to do with meat, and I get it. Like we've gone from, you know, our parents and grandparents' generation, where they go to the local butcher and they're getting things like Kensington Market. They used to kill the chickens and pluck them there in the street, you know, not 35 years ago. So a huge shift.
And styrofoam and brown paper. If you've got brown paper, you can ask somebody a question. If you got styrofoam, you go, I have no idea.
And that's the result. So I was like, okay, and I hadn't seen a book quite like the one I wrote, where it's like, just in layman's terms, here, this is what you do. This is what you should be looking for, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the book, that it really is. I know it may look a bit daunting, but here's some simple instructions, and please try this at home. And if you have any problems, come into the shop, ask us, you know, write to me at the shop. Somebody will answer you. And indeed, you've got all that very helpful material on the website, which is just so handy. You just go, okay, duh, I can do this. Or I can burn it or wreck it the first few times, but I can do it. And the feeling of satisfaction you get when you say, okay, I really can make a chicken 10 pieces. And just, you know, you've made it very, very clear. But so you get asked a lot of questions over the counter, a lot of people with inquisitive looks and say, well, I'm not sure, that's something a bit squeamish. What should we be asking you guys? I mean, when we come in and say, look, I'm hungry, and I'm hungrier being in here. I love the look of everything. I've pulled down number, well, in your shop, 158, and I'm going to wait patiently for my turn. But then, you know, there's a panic of, whoa, what do I want? In my case, I usually start with something that's going to take some folks some time to get, so then I can scan and keep going. But then it's, what do I do with it? So how do you cue us for a great relationship? What kind of, give me our script, our lines, our dialogue. That works better for me if the stuff is written out.
Well, yeah, no, like honestly, the way that I approach service is very much similar to my restaurant days. And I'm glad I had that experience, because I think it's really important for anyone in retail or restaurants, whatever, to be able to engage with the customer. And also on the flip side, for the customer to feel comfortable engaging with the person who's selling you food. So, and that's something that we really hammer into new employees when they come in and say, like, look, like people are coming in to, they're not just, it's not just a simple transaction. It's not just like so sometimes people are like, I want a pound of ground beef. I know what I want and I'm out. Okay, that's fine. But many times, like you're saying, people come in and they're like, okay, I want to try a couple of different things, or I'm not sure what I want, or I'm looking for a steak, and what do you have? What kind of steaks do you have? I'm like, well, we have like 15 steaks. Let's walk you through it and let's see what we got. How do you want to cook it? Do you want to pan fry? Do you want to grill it? Whatever. What do you like? Tough? Do you like tender? Do you like marble? Do you like lean? Mm-hmm. There's all those kind of things, and it's really important. Like, and at the end of the day, we're especially butcher shop, right? And everyone that's on this call today has probably been in the shop and knows the style of service that we do. You can't always get that at places like a grocery store. But
well, I mean, yeah, the black hole of Calcutta, this is, and no names will be mentioned, but the son of a friend of ours was recently hired. He's a teenager at school trying to make a little pocket money. He gets hired at the meat counter at Zehrs, right?
Yeah.
Right? He's a vegetarian, okay? No disrespect, but the kid is about, 16 years old, as 17 years old, eats vegetables, and he's standing behind the counter. He hasn't seen this piece of meat. And of course, little old ladies are coming up. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And I said, listen, I should do this job. And I may actually go and apply it because times are hard. But it's that, that's the really, for me, the absolute wrong place that we should be. I mean, first of all, you don't know where the stuff is coming from. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. And if they did, they're reading it off the back of a card that is a cheat sheet. I love the idea that we can walk in and really be innocents. And in that sense, I want to know, you obviously take really good care with your employees, and you source people. I know you recruit the right people. Your restaurant experience, who's who and where they are. And maybe if they want to change. So you're getting people with a great deal of experience and information and a good attitude. And I'm not going to feel like you're just trying to sell me what's about to go rotten, if you follow me, right? So that we're entering into something that I'm going to have a heightened experience when I go home and have the skill to affect this dish, as opposed to a miserable experience. And it really opens the door for a whole new way of thinking. And I think the book is what takes it, we can take this home, this fungible thing, and actually hold on to it and pour over it and come into you better informed. But it's the generosity of you and your staff that encourages that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I definitely think that there's a good, I'm trying to be diplomatic here. It's really good to support your local butcher 100%. And butchers, when you go to a butcher shop, you're going to engage with people who want to really be there and sell meat. Like that's what they do. That's their lives. I guess and I talked about this in the book, because when I was writing the book, I was really aware that there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't have access to, an independent butcher shop. There's going to be, the larger grocery stores or the Zehrs or whatever. And so I wrote parts of it with that in mind, knowing that I still believe, even at Zehrs, the most important thing is, like you mentioned, the little old lady going to talk to the vegetarian kid. I think the important thing is that the people are still going up and talking to that kid and saying, like, hey, look, how do I do this? Because at the end of the day, if enough people do that, then they're either going to have to figure out how to train that kid, or they're going to have to find someone who knows what they're talking about. And whether it's like a meat manager is going to come out and talk to that person or whatever. But that's a really important part of engagement, because if you're just relying on small butcher shops, then that's gonna cut out a big swath of the population that lives in St. Mary's and has to go to the independent, because that's where they go to get their meat, right? So
It's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just to summarize. I think
Yeah,
it's really important. That's the takeaway, is that I want people to be comfortable talking to the people that sell their food, and myself, and that's for myself too, because I'm actually a very like you know me well enough. We've known each other for over a decade, and I can be very animated, and I can be very talkative, but in a store, especially a store that I feel a bit of a like I don't know the owners, I don't know the store.
Mm.
I could be in Croatia or wherever. I am intimidated, and that intimidation is totally natural. But I think it's really important when you're talking about something that you're eating and you're going to enjoy with your taste buds in your stomach. I think it's really important to get past that. So, anyways, what were you
Well,
going to say?
I think, well, it brings me to my next question, but I think you're absolutely right. If anything can up the game of the bigger shops, the big box ones, I think that's a very useful and helpful thing. And, you know, sometimes one has to go there. I like supporting guys like yourself. I've got,
Oh yeah,
you know, in the Kitchener Waterloo area, great guys. Four Quarters just opened. The Bauer Butcher guys are
yeah,
terrific. You know, and I kind of like that because I can have a conversation. I, like you, am animated and like, you know, bloody
yeah,
things and sharp knives. But having said that, one of the things that I come up against, particularly in those bigger shops, is the kinds of cuts. They're going for, I guess, most popular and
yeah.
bulk and all that stuff. And I have of late been really fascinated and absolutely delighted, and, you know, with delicious results, looking at all these rarer bits. And I would like to know from you, what do you think are the most underrated cuts that, you know, would be great finds, great things to work on, stuff that that you'd have in a restaurant and then never think to buy, like a bavette, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you give us an insight into those? Because those are the things we're really only going to find in shops like yours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is I think actually grocery stores did a real disservice to the public back in the early 80s when they started proliferating. You got the AMPs and the Loblaws and stuff like that coming out. And they basically decided that we are going, like any business model, they treat it like a business model. So they say, okay, what are the top sellers? What are the things we're going to sell the most? And let's just sell that. And you find some smaller, like, I mean, coming from Toronto, Toronto's great. You mentioned the diversity of Toronto, and it's fantastic because you can find the Caribbean butcher and you can find the Italian grocery store, and you can go to those places, the Portuguese grocer or the butcher, and you go to those places and you get all the cuts that you want from that kind of region. But outside of that, like, it's really hard to find those interesting cuts that I carry now, and I think everyone should carry. You mentioned bavette, hanger steak, petite tenders. These are all steaks that are wonderful grilling cuts. They're a little bit tougher, so and require a little bit more thought, and not necessarily more skill, because skill is like a learned behavior. You can just learn that after
No,
a few
if I can
steaks.
do it, it doesn't require much skill. I can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the disservice part came in when grocery stores decide, okay, let's narrow our SKUs down to what sells, and we can make the most profit off of. Because
Mhm.
I carry stuff that is like very, like you mentioned, goat. Goat, unfortunately, is actually, for the expense of it,
Yeah.
is a very low profit thing, because you have to get fresh goat, you have to get fresh goat, you have to clean all the stuff off of it, you have to cut it into stew pieces, and you have to do all this work to it. And if I had to charge the same amount to get the profit that I need to support my staff and my health benefits and stuff, no one would buy the goat. So I sell it at a price that I know
Well, I'm
people will
pretty
buy it.
sure there would be one person who would buy the goat.
Yes, I
Um,
know her well. But the point is that, like, you know, years ago, decades ago, when these decisions were made, now you go to a grocery store and you can get, like you mentioned, the big hitters. You can get the strip loin steaks, your ribeyes, your tenderloins, and then ground beef and things like that. And every once in a while, you'll run across some more interesting things that are a little bit more unique. But generally speaking, the butcher counters at grocery stores have become, the best sellers, and just the
yeah,
hits,
I mean,
which
it's
to
as if
me is boring. It's boring.
well, and also,
Like,
in terms of if you're thinking sustainability and, you know, a certain amount of doing the
yeah,
right thing, it's as if the animal only had those parts. You're thinking, well, I'm pretty sure that there's more to this animal, and
well,
that it's
absolutely, yeah. And the animal, then it's all those parts that we can cook and make into steaks and stuff like that. and braises and whatnot are just being used for grounds, for ground beef, for
Oh, I
the
see. So
hamburger.
they're not going straight to dog food or anything.
No. It's all like for ground beef, because people people love burgers and people love meat sauce, and that's where you're getting that. And people are more familiar with burgers and meat sauce than they are with bavette or even beef shank. Beef shank, which is like an amazing cut and is you can find it, but it's still like a fairly strangely uncommon thing. Oxtail, why, like, don't even get me started on why oxtail got so expensive. It's across the board. Industry has made it almost like they've decided for us. You know what I mean? Like the grocery store industry decided for us that this is what people are going to want. And there's trends and stuff like that will come and go. But I mean, and we've been talking a lot about beef. That the same thing goes for every other animal too. Like chicken, like almost everything on the chicken is very popular. It's a lean meat. People love it. Drumsticks are a pain. Like a chicken drumstick is very hard for me to sell. Everyone, when they want dark meat, everyone wants the thigh, because the thigh's meatier, it has a thinner bone. I get it. You get more meat off of it. But a drumstick is a perfectly delicious, part of the chicken that is, people don't want it. It's funny. I was on a call like this a couple of weeks ago, and someone asked me a similar question. Said like, "Oh, what should we be asking for that we should sell a lot more of, or what we could move a lot more of?" And I was saying chicken drumsticks, because if I have to talk to another chef who tells me that they don't want the drumstick, they just want the thigh for their fried chicken sandwich, that it's fine. I get it, but it's also like, well, there's the other part of the leg that's just as good.
They can stand up. And there's wonderful recipes for it, great things to be able to do with it. And, with the book, of course, there's ideas. So I mean, if that takes us to, I suspect our next question is, what question do you get asked most, other than what do I do with a drumstick anyway? What are people wanting to know most? What gives you an idea of what the trends are in the shop?
So, trends in the shop are interesting, because I feel like because of the nature of what we do, we get asked questions that other stores won't get asked. So, or at least other stores won't answer. So like, where did this come from? What was it fed? Is there, people have issues with, say, soy or corn in the diet of animals. So they'll say, okay, well, which beef has been grass fed versus which has been fed corn as a finisher. We get asked in terms of like what to cut or what to cook or how to cook. I'm lucky to say, like, because we've been there for over 10 years, like we get less of those questions now. But for the longest time, we were getting questions like, what do I do? Like I mentioned oxtail, like what do I do with oxtail? Yeah. Or we like I need a pot roast. Which roast should I get? I want to do a pot roast, and there's like many different muscles that can be used as a pot roast. A pot roast is just a braise, right? And I talk about this in the book a bit about working muscles versus non-working muscles, and why that's a different thing, and how you can kind of, when you start cooking a lot, you start thinking, okay, well, for example, why can't I pot roast a beef tenderloin versus, and why can't I just dry roast or grill a beef shank? There's a reason for that, other than just like experience.
Everybody on the call here has a book. I've read the book, and you're very clear about all those reasons and the background to all that, and how the muscles work, why different treatments work better for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, that goes a long way to educating us in the least didactic way, but in a very hands-on look. It's very simple. This muscle does that. It responds to this kind of treatment. And I think you've really done a masterful job of not only giving us an ideal recipe to take, okay, here's a piece of meat, but you haven't seen it, you're just not comfortable with it, but here's what you're going to do. And trust me, one of the things I have to say that I think is really cool in your little small window boxes down on the lower, I think it's right-hand sides of the page. Oh, don't forget to start doing this about 2 days before you want to eat it. Because then one suddenly realizes, no, some of this shit takes time and effort and knowledge and the right mise en place. You've got to have your ducks in a row, not to put too fine a point on it. And I think you're very, very clear and careful with us, guiding us through that. So hopefully you'll get more questions and just more books flying off the shelf.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's after I wrote the all the recipes and everything, when we were going through the edit phase and the review phase of the book, I realized that a lot of my recipes it require more than like 2 hours of preparation time.
Well, and I shouldn't be sawing marrow bones at home with my old hacksaw, right?
No, probably not. Probably not.
When you've got a salsa verde chimichurri sauce for that. There's certain things when it says, ask your butcher to do this, ask your butcher to do that. Is that really part of your business customer relations kind of approach, or is that just good butcher business? You've got a wonderful line in the book about, ask for some twine to tie it up. He doesn't give it, don't ever go to that shop again. I agree with that. But absolutely. Well, like I was saying about the difference between, like, say a grocery store versus a butcher shop, is that, like, one of the main differences that I've seen, and it's an unfortunate one, is that, like, there's less engagement with the product they're selling in a place like a grocery store, because that's not to say that they don't care about what they're selling. It's just that it's not, it's a huge store with lots of moving parts, and butcher twine might not even be something that they have to use there. So it's when I think it's really important to have that kind of conversation and that engagement with the people, like I've talked about this before, with the people that are selling you and realistically, like, be able to have that kind of rapport and say things. Okay, like we commonly have people coming in asking, saying, okay, I'm doing this recipe, and God bless them, a lot of people are quite afraid of going outside of the box of recipes. So they'll say, oh, I have a recipe from the New York Times, and it says I need 2.5 pounds of brisket from the lean end. So okay, and then we'll cut it. It'll be like 2.4 pounds or 2.6 pounds. They're like, oh, no, it says. I'm like, okay, we'll fix it. Don't worry, we'll get it right next time. Like, you have a lot of tiny little pieces of brisket on sale at the end of the week. Like,
there's a lot that goes into the burger.
Listen, I think that's part of what our difficulty is. The skill set required. It's not these late days and generations, something that's been passed on as reliably as it used to be with our grandmothers. If you look at me reading Michael Pollan, what is food? Well, just don't buy anything your grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. You want to go to a grocery store, only go around the outside. Don't buy processed. Talk to the people who grew it, or people who know the people who grew it, and ask them how to do it. But you still need a skill set, right? And you still need to go home and have confidence with, sharp implements and fire. And then you're talking about contamination, bacteria, raw things, killing your family. And so, we need all the help we can get, particularly as you take us on this journey into, rarer and more, if not exotic, but less used pieces of the animal than we are used to, having grown up on grocery store stuff, right? And I think that's part of what's clearly your small butcher shop mandate, is to educate us. One of the things I love about the shop is your branching out to have it also be a place where I'm going to get remarkable sauces made by some guys remarkable other things that you're bringing because you think, oh, that goes well with this. I was so delighted to come here. I'm in my daughter's apartment. She made her breakfast. She took out Frank's, is it Frank's red sauce, hot sauce? What? I didn't know what that was. I had to go over and look. Oh, that's what Sanagan is talking about.
The Uncle Ted's, Uncle Ted's,
Whatever it is, she has yours, and I probably got it at your shop. And so, we need our hands held a little bit. But if we're coming in, if you're going to give us some idea, and I'm imagining that pretty much everybody on this call knows the answer to all this, but just for me, what should we be doing when we come in? What should we be looking for in meat? If we're looking at a chicken, if we're looking at a piece of pork, is it supposed to be pink? The other white meat, is it supposed to be slightly gray? Lamb, we start to get dizzy with the big shelf full of fabulous stuff. It all looks delicious if you know what it is. But if you're not really sure, where should we go with that?
Yeah, it's so there's a couple things there. One is like what to look for in when you're shopping for specific types of meat. I think that's an important question, and one that I answer in the book, and about things like you look for pink, and it's really about what you're not looking for. And one of the biggest things for me is when I walk into a butcher shop, that I've been there. It's my first time in the place. Is I smell it, and it's not like something I do, like I try to do, but you walk in, you start smelling, and a butcher shop that has like older meat will have like a sourness to the air, because you can't mask it. You can't mask the smell of old meat. It's unfortunate, and I don't mean like old, like dry aged, like properly aged meat. I mean like stuff that's spoiling. So that's number one. But if you can avoid that smell and you get in, then you're looking at different things that are specific to the animal. So one of the things I actually don't mind doing is we have customers that will say like, oh, can I smell that chicken? I want to make sure it smells fresh. And it sounds silly, and not everyone does it. It's a very small percentage of people that ask that question, but I'm like, yeah, sure. As long as you're not like shoving your nose in the chicken, you can get an idea of that smell. So that's what I mean. You should use your senses. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, like figure out what to see what's fresh. But the other side of it too is you would ask the question about like when there's such a variety, is how do you know what to kind of laser focus in on? And I think even in our shop, that's something that we struggle with our customer service guy, our meat hawkers, because we're so busy that people come in and you say, oh, you're number 153, what would you like? And you're like, shit, I don't know, I just like I need like 10 things and I don't know where to start. And it's like, okay, well,
you don't want to just say what's fresh today, what do you recommend? Because then you look like a rube, right? And you get sent out with the oldest piece of mutton that is just about to go super funny.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it is like a good question to ask when you're going in is, okay, so if you know what you want, like you're like that person with the New York Times recipe, and you're like, I need that 2.5 pounds of brisket, then that's fine. You go and you ask that question, and you get it. However, if you're like, I'm having some friends over to barbecue and I want something that's going to go well, like I want it steak and I want to impress people on the barbecue or whatever, you can go in and that's all you have to say. You say like, look, I'm trying to impress people. Or you say like, look, it's just my family. I'm looking for something to grill up tonight. What do you recommend? Yeah. And like any butcher shop worth its salt will say like, well, actually, we have like, this is really tasty right now. It's not about freshness so much as just like, oh, the marbling on these strip loins is like extra special, or like the marinade on these chicken legs is like really spicy. Do you like spicy stuff? Because we got these sausages too that are like really unique and interesting, and we're no. So I think it's like that is a much better exchange than just going into a butcher shop and saying like, I'll have a strip loin. Yeah, which is fine.
No predetermined thing. I like to see what's there, what looks amazing, and then usually go out with armfuls of the stuff, particularly from your place, because it just looks all so delicious. Luckily, I've purchased a vacuum sealer so I can get home and go, I can't even. You see that horrible sound in the background. I know, but what do I think first? But that's enormously helpful. And the book is really, really clear, Peter, about your attitude, your passion, the way to do it, and gives us real solid tools. So I imagine everybody is gonna have a pretty extensive vocabulary coming in. And I would be willing to bet that pretty soon you'll be able to tell who's read the book, because they're gonna come in and I'm gonna pull a Sanagan out of my So if I was to take and we're going to be quoting your recipe for oxtail and ripples, or whatever those things are, and going,
spinners,
95. So be ready for that. Know the thing backwards and forwards. If you've got any ghostwriters, consult with them. But listen,
no ghostwriters.
what is your, you know, and I say finally, not to end the conversation, but to sort of start another section. What do you hope that the people's takeaway is from the book? How do you expect or hope them, you know, in your heart of hearts, want them to engage with the book? What's the future? And an ancillary question is, what do you see the future for you? You've opened a second shop. Everything's going blazes. It's fantastic, even in these terrifically difficult times. You guys are feeding people. So what do we get from the book, and then from teacher, chef, butcher, author?
Well, so to answer the takeaway, so what I hope people take away is what I like. One of the things I've been touching on tonight is making sure that you're engaging with the people that sell you food, whether it's fish, vegetables, baked goods, whatever it is. Making sure you're engaging with them, because at the end of the day, we are, like, we being the people who sell food, we are participating in what I believe is the best part of the customer's day. And what I mean by that, and this is something we talk about in training and stuff, is I believe that the best part of most people's day, or if in fact anyone's day really, is when they get to sit down at the end of the day and share a meal, if they can share a meal, or even if they've been by themselves, and just cook themselves something and enjoy it with either themselves or with friends or with family. I think that's a really special time. It's like that's the summit to the climb up the day when you wake up at whatever time you wake up, and then that's what you're trying to achieve. And so as the people that sell you food, like we're a part of making that special moment happen. And people are choosing to come to us to buy what they're going to be cooking and serving that night. And I think that's a really special relationship that we have. So I think it's really important as for the readers and for customers to understand their role in that, and know that there's that's what we're here for, is to make sure that they get something really good that they can serve their friends and family. So that's the one takeaway. The other takeaway is that is just kind of hopefully bringing a little bit more comfort and confidence around meat and meat in general, because it's a very murky subject. Like, I talk a lot about labels in the book, and I talk a lot about, like, you know, getting to the cutting through all the noise to get to, like, what you're really trying to get to put into your body, right? Like, it's easy to go to a restaurant. That's the thing with that's the big difference between going out to eat versus cooking for yourself. Is like, when you go out to eat, you'll just trust the restaurant. If you think, okay, I like let's use the example of like Keystone Alley in Stratford. I go there, I know who the chef is, I know some of their purveyors, I have a general idea of what I'm going to get out of that meal. If I'm cooking for myself, I know exactly what I'm going to get out of that meal. I know where my stuff came from. I know how I'm cooking it. I know the ingredients. I know how, like, at the timing, I know, like, when people are coming over, am I going to be pouring wine or making martinis or whatever? Like, I know, like, it's all in my control. And so that's a really important takeaways, is building that confidence with cooking and with food in general. So that's what I hope people take away from the book, especially around meat, because it is so complicated sometimes, or confusing. And then the future of the shop is there is a future, which is good. What exactly it is, it remains to be seen. But we definitely have some plans on the future. The Gerard shop, our second store, is doing really well. It was doing fine, and then the unfortunate COVID pandemic hit, and because there's so many people staying at home and working from home, and it's a very small neighborhood shop, it just kind of blossomed as a store, and it's doing very very well. Kensington is doing great too. Kensington is interesting because it's a destination neighborhood, so we lost a lot of that traffic coming through, but we've also pivoted to the keyword of 2020.
Word of the day, yes.
Yeah. We've started doing more online stuff, which is great, which is like, we're building that stuff, which is, especially now, of course, we're all in another lockdown as of Monday. So we really want to impress upon people that we do this. We can do curbside pickup and we can do delivery, and we've gotten quite good at it. So that's another thing we do. Again, it takes away what we're talking about, the walking into the store and having the conversation with the butcher. Unfortunately, there's a bit of that lacking with that.
Well, but luckily, if everybody buys the book, we'll have some of those skill, and we'll know from the pictures what that murky thing really is. I mean, when I was driving in this morning from Stratford, I thought for the first time in my life that thanks to you, I could spot steers, heifers, milk cows, veal huts. What are those little white tiny huts? I thought, and I was driving through, pardon me, there must have been about 30 beef producers between here and my house. And I thought, I've never seen these people in the same way before. But one of the takeaways from today's announcement, certainly in Ontario, is those cattle are going to keep growing. They're going to need a marketplace, and we are that marketplace. And the more informed and interested and inventive and creative we are about getting the two of us together, the better it's going to be. And with you as our go-between and informative guide, I can't think but that you'll figure this out, and that we'll all be better off for it.
Oh yeah, like at the end of the day, the store is going to be there. Food is always going to be a part of people's lives. I feel really bad. I'll be honest. I feel really bad for restaurants right now, especially as a former chef that has a bunch of friends in restaurants and used to supply restaurants. They're going through a real challenging time right now. But like, people need to eat, and people want to eat good things, and they want to have that time that they want to get to that summit at the end of the day where they're sitting down and sharing something really nice with people they love. And I think that's that at the end of the day is like, doesn't matter where you're from, that's the most
satisfaction for us in doing that for ourselves, I think, is immense. And for us, my wife and I work in the theater, and that's not coming back for eons. And the most important question that I get from her every morning is, what's for dinner? And the challenge is to say, okay, and now within the restrictions of the protocols and safety, what can I get from who, where, discreetly and safely, and come home and astonish her. And we do that. I have to tell you that the Keystone Alley is now called the Alley. It's been rebranded.
Oh, right. I heard that.
Jim Hurley and the wonderful chef there, Aaron Carley. We had dinner there a couple of days ago when they reopened. Now they're probably closed again. They're also running a little grocery store. So you can get in there, there's only 2 or 3 people in. You get in, you say, what's fresh? What did Anthony John just deliver? And then you go around and say, I just need a little piece of meat. The satisfaction of going and being able to then open your book, turn the fire on, gas on, and say, okay, I'm going to do this. And if I don't fail today, we win. And, when you say, I know exactly what went into it. I know how much salt there's in your food. I put it there. And it's the best. It's what was, what Sanagan told me to put in. So there's an enormous amount of, creativity and satisfaction. And what you touch on in the book is one of the most, important tenets of your work is family. It's about the things that you remembered as a kid. I smelt that turkey at Christmas. I want that smell again. I want when somebody smells the turkey to go, they love me here. I have a place. So I think you've accomplished that as I've been back and forth through the book and back up and back on the website. I've followed your blog for ages. I mean, I think you've managed to synthesize your teaching, your chefing, and your butchering into something really remarkable and terribly useful, particularly at this time.
Well, thank you very much, Colm. That means a lot. That means
you had
a lot.
The grace to blush. It was nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So listen, do you have any questions or anything? Do we have time to see if anybody's got anything to ask you?
I think we do have some questions. I think Carolina might be feeding you some from I don't know how this works exactly, but I'm willing to take questions.
And I'm willing to parrot them here from whatever Carolina might send me.
Okay.
Now, hang on. Let me just open this thing. Oh, okay. Right, depends on your butcher. So there's some questions about offal, right? And that it's difficult to cook. And I have to say, I feel the same way. One of the things I wanted to try, and the book almost convinces me I might be able to do it, is when I go out to a restaurant and I know it's one I trust and they've got liver and onions and maybe a bit of bacon on it, I always have it. I wouldn't,
Yeah.
you know, the idea of doing it at home, I think, nah, I can't. I'll slip. It'll be covered with, you know, floor dust. It'll be a disaster. What do we do with offal?
So that's an interesting question, because offal is such a varied, I mean, it's a variety of meats. It is a variety meat. But like, so offal is obviously like the cuts that aren't considered premium muscles, right? So we're talking, you know, livers, kidneys, tripe, organ meat, generally organ meat, but also some muscles like heart. Heart is a muscle. Oxtail, another muscle. Hanger steak is considered offal, right?
Fabulous.
Yeah. So, and I think it's only because it's on the inside of the rib cage that, like, at some point the abattoirs are like, no, that's on the inside. There's like a strict line. It's like, no, this side is meat, this side is offal. Yeah, that's all. Even though it tastes and cooks just like
Some of this stuff
steaks.
the butchers kept to themselves, as you know. It was
yeah. So that was the thing back in the day. That was the whole, like, hanger steak was the big butcher's cut. But so the thing with offal is that what I find is much like we're talking about how it's difficult even to get people reacquainted with things like even roasting a whole chicken or a bavette steak or a flank steak for that matter. It's even another step to try to get them back into offal. And we carry some offal all the time, like beef liver. We have beef liver all the time. Oxtail, I mentioned. In the freezer, we have tongue and cow foot, which is, you know, for specific reasons and people. Beef cheek is another considered an offal as well. Yeah, exactly. And then the things that are organ meat, the things that people like other than liver is still a pretty popular cut. I'll say we sell about 2 whole beef livers a week, and a beef liver is quite big. They're about like, you know, 10 plus pounds each. So we're selling quite a bit of beef liver and chicken liver, and surprisingly chicken hearts. A lot of people want chicken hearts. But when you get into things like sweetbreads, which are either the thymus or the pancreas, the gland type stuff, or the kidneys, they spoil really quickly. And that's one of the reasons why we actually stopped carrying a lot of that fresh. We have it frozen for the specific reason that unless you have a market that is coming in, like a customer base that's coming in and requesting this stuff all the time, you're gonna, like, sweetbreads notoriously, like 3 days you have, and then it's garbage. So if you're not selling it in 3 days, then it's not. Yeah. And there's actually in France, that used to be, so in France is a really unique place with butchery. They used to have their butchers, and then you go to the butcher shop, and then you go to the charcutier, so for your pâtés and rillettes and stuff. And then they'd have whole stores, like I believe they were called triperies, where you go just for offal. So they had the tripe, the kidney, the heart, all that stuff. So that doesn't really exist here. What does exist is people that want that stuff, but the trade-off is, like, a lot of the times it's been frozen. So, but I mean,
you do on like special order stuff. If I came in and I said, in, you know, 3 weeks, if you can get this, I would like that. Is that
so? So yes, absolutely, and we definitely offer that service. The trouble is that, like, a good example of this is tripe, like what the stomach lining of one of the stomachs of a steer. So tripe is notoriously a pain in the butt because you can get it fresh. If you get it fresh, it's not. You have to process it, and it's not a fun job. I've done it. It smells like bile, and I don't want to turn anyone off. I hope people are having cassoulet right now. There's no tripe in it, but it's not a fun job. And so, anyways, so you can get it frozen. If you came in and said, I want tripe, I said, okay, here's the problem. I need to get a 20-pound frozen block of tripe. I can get it. I can cut a bit off for you, but then you're getting a cut. I can't defrost 20 pounds to sell you 2 pounds, and then I have 18 pounds that are going to go in the garbage. So it's a struggle.
one of the fun things about the book is that you're willing to take the hit for a lot of us. And so your descriptions, for example, of, plucking and eviscerating those
Yeah.
fowl that hung for 4 days, your pal said, I'm never plucking doing this again.
Yeah.
You get it. And then when you talk about some of those organ meats and some of the, the extremities, we're talking hooves and feet and things like that, that you've got to clean it, that you got to figure out where it came from, and you've got to take really good care of it. And the man hours involved, woman hours too, in getting that to, being able to go into the counter, obviously that's beyond reasonable if the profit point just isn't there. So
well, yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's important. Like we try. Like we'll do what we can. And if it gets to a point where it's like, well, I can get it, but it means that. And I've said that to people. I said, like, and honestly, like tripe is one of the very few examples of having to do something like that. Most other things, like we can source and we can get smaller versions of. Just if you're looking for like, I don't know, you're looking for like beef kidney or something like that. Yeah, we can source it. That's not a big deal. Yeah.
Somebody was supposed to know if you treat the stores differently. Do you stock the Kensington store differently than Gerard? Is the clientele different? Is there a different, vibe at any of these in your setup of that?
Yeah, actually, and I was expecting it, but not not as much as what's come out of it. So I mentioned things like cowfoot and oxtail. So Kensington Market, when I opened, and this was a really special thing for me anyways, is when I opened the very small stores, a lot of my first customers were the Caribbean clientele that were going to the Max and Sons, the store that was before me. They were continuing to come to when I took it over. So I created this great, or I had this great Caribbean and Portuguese customer base that were going for the oxtails, the cowfoots, the goat, stuff like that. So that was fantastic. And I've kind of carried that through the decade into my bigger store and all that. When we opened in Gerard, so Gerard and Coxwell is part of the India Bazaar. So originally a very Southeast Asian community there. Oxtail and cowfoot, not so much, but goat shoulder and that, yeah, absolutely. I have people, like I'd go to the bank teller. I remember we had a bank, whatever, it's a RBC, that we deposit stuff. When I go for deposits, the counter woman who was Indian would say like, "Oh, do you have the fresh goat today?" Like at the bank. I was like, "Well, no, in 2 days. We'll have it in 2 days, and then come on by. We'll cut it up for you." So there's definitely that. Like the neighborhoods are a little bit more unique. The other thing actually in the East End is that there's a very big British expat population in that area, which I wasn't really expecting. And a lot of the charcuterie that is made there. Yes. A lot of the specialty stuff, like the English style stuff, like the Scotch eggs, the mulberry pies, those things, they sell like hotcakes there. And people like the white pudding, people like tell us, "Oh, we love it. It's just like back in Britain."
Oh, it's
fantastic. But that stuff I can't sell in Kensington.
Well, but different strokes, right? A big shout out from somebody here in our meeting for the charcuterie in Gerard, and the team there is amazing. Charcuterie is an interesting point to touch on too, because you are French trained, right?
Yeah, French Italian.
Your sensibility is French Italian, and boy, they make some of the best charcuterie ever. I could leave off the stuff. I gather you're not supposed to, but I'm going to take my nitrates, and
we try.
I'll make a great corpse. I'll be preserved for a very long time.
Yeah.
But what was your idea of expanding that? Because of course, it's not for everyone. You got to introduce people, but it just takes such advantage of what we've got here. You're using the local pork, the local boar, whatever's going on, and then using them in what are now going to be Canadian classics, even though they are saucisson sec and chorizo, etc.
Yeah.
So how did you think? Well, okay, people, I'll just lead them.
So when we first opened the bigger store in Kensington Market, so in year 3 or 4, whatever, I brought in an old friend of mine, and I said to lead department. I said, okay, look, this is what I want. I want to make some chicken liver mousses, and I want to make some terrines and stuff like that. And at the time, it was a good selection, but it was a small selection. And a year or so later, that guy moved on, and we brought in our current charcutier, whose name is Scott, who is at the time, he came on as a cook and a butcher in the shop. And we were very fortunate to have him, because what ended up happening, it was a very organic process where when the first guy kind of left, Scott said, okay, well, we have all these pig heads and we have all this pork liver and things like that. Like, let's see what I can do with this. And we said, I kind of said, okay, I'll give you a bit of carte blanche on this. Let's see what you can do. And slowly but surely over the years, he's created this wonderful charcuterie menu that people know us for and stuff, everything. And to like, it got to the point where early last year, so 2019, Brian, our operations manager, and Scott and I went to Paris just for 3 days of intensive charcuterie eating. And we visited about 45 stores in 3 days. And it was, when you say like I could live on charcuterie, after 3 days, you're like, I need a break from charcuterie. Yeah. it was so much liver and so much pork fat and so much brandied everything. But it was an amazing experience because there's nowhere like that back here. And so when we came back to Canada, I said, okay, that's what we're going to do. Now we're inspired. Now we're going to like really up the game. And all of a sudden we decided to do all this stuff, and we hit a roadblock because you can't even buy the equipment to make these things here in Canada. And I was like contacting friends in Quebec, like Montreal, Quebec City, whatever. No one had it. I had to import equipment and terrines from Europe, from Switzerland to Canada. And it was not cheap to do that.
But now you know why oxtail is so expensive.
Well, yeah, right. But it's so like, to me, it's really important to showcase that. And I love eating it. And I love that we do it. And I mean, COVID's kind of smacked us a bit on that level because we were doing really well on it. And then COVID happened. Is kind of like, unfortunately, after 9/11, everyone kind of went back to what they know and comfort food. But, since March, like after, the first few months of the lockdown, people are starting to experiment more. And now we have the website so people can see what it is more, more and more. And people get stuff like we're going to Christmas season and we're talking foie gras terrines. We're talking white, boudin blanc, like the white sausage with the mushrooms in there. And it's really important for me to like celebrate that side of things too, because it's part of meat, as well as like what the kitchen is preparing too. Like, so the chefs in the kitchen making everything from the cassoulet that you guys are enjoying tonight, to tomato sauce for pasta that we make in house and everything like that. It's really important to me that we, much like when you're having dinner at home and what goes in everything, that we have that same kind of control, and ultimately we have the ability to say like, okay, we want it to taste like this, so this is how we're going to make it. And then people can choose whether they like it or not. And luckily, like, most of the time, everyone loves what we do. So I can't complain about that.
Well, no, and indeed, I mean, part of the problem with lockdowns and that is that, we're not ordering as much stuff, because charcuterie particularly, it's when, I've got nothing in the house and 20 people are coming over. Well, I'm fine. We got some onions, we've got some olives, we've got some gin, we've got sausages. We can do what we need to do. And you're always ready for something. So in a sense, I mean, I always just stock up, thinking this is just it's part of the pantry, part of the larder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anybody out there wanting to know anything particular from Peter at this point in the evening? I don't want to keep you all up too late or wear out our welcome. Peter, is there anything you particularly like to say that,
I just, if anything, I would like to thank everyone obviously for joining tonight, but the project, this book, started with an idea that I could kind of share a bit of knowledge and hopefully, help people along and gain the confidence to shop and to cook for meat. And it took a lot of people to, like, I wrote the book. That's fine. They're my recipes. Mostly there's about easily 10 to 20% that are, either from the kitchen, like Chef Ann and her team, or Scott, Charcutier Scott and his team. But other than that, like it took a lot of people to get it going. And the photography, for example, and the food styling is something that I didn't think much about when I was writing the book. I'm so glad that we got the people that we did. I think it looks great, and I like, this isn't me patting myself on the back. I just actually think it's a really good looking book.
And in the summer, that we went, holy cow, this is really beautiful. And it's not that I looked at you in astonishment. I mean, I was convinced that you would come up with something that beautiful. But yeah, you know, there are many collaborators to make this kind of thing happen. One of the wonderful little videos on your website shows some of your food design prep, and you know, people with tweezers making sure that all those photographs were immaculate. It really
Absolutely. Well, and also, like, I think, you know, I mentioned it in the book, but like Alia, my wife and your friend, is also played such a huge role in like making sure that everything read and sounded well, right? So like, so the whole thing, it was a project of love. Like I hope that comes across. I hope everyone gets that out of it and takes a little bit into their own homes and kitchens and dinner tables. And I think you know, it's gonna be a positive thing.
I want to get to before we finish, because they've just come in and I think they're great. One is a compliment and richly deserved and fabulous. This book is to meat what ottolenghi is to vegetables. So
wow,
thank you for that.
That's very flattering. Thank you.
And
Thank
then
you so much.
This is perhaps a little bit more open-ended and will give us a little insight into where Peter Sanagan is tonight and where he's going in the future. Desert Island meal.
Wow. You know what? Honestly, I've been asked that question many times, even like before I opened the shop. We used to have that kind of conversation. I still get such a pleasure from a really, really good, well-aged piece of beef, cooked properly, cooked like when I say properly, I like on a charcoal grill. You know the charcoal grills that they have on desert islands. One of those.
Hey, listen, and, you can do charcoal.
Yeah. And I, you know, a lot of my cooking background is French, with like just a pile of frites cooked in peanut oil. Actually, that's a really which you can't find anymore because everyone's allergic to peanuts. So, but if you can find it, just a beautiful steak with a bunch of peanut fried potatoes. I
don't want to turn a corner too violently before we wrap up and say goodbye, but it's a question I have for you. Obviously, that steak desert island meal is going to be basically with fire, but there's now so many new opportunities for methodology in cooking and so many different stovetops. I know that your family now are induction crazy. I do Japanese Conroe grills inside, bad idea, but I keep induction plates standing by. I keep sous vide, which you kind of touch on in a vague way in the book about in a sort of round the corner version of it.
Yeah.
You know, getting the meat to a certain temperature somehow before you burn it. But do you have a favorite method, or basically is it with whatever the material is, whatever that product really thrives with and is best, you know, the show-off version of this meal is going to be better with fire, this with water, this buried in the ground for 2 years, then fired. What do you like?
So so not to be too diplomatic, but it definitely depends on what the cut is and you know, what you want out of it. Having said that, I've been over the last 5 years. So I was a chef, a restaurant cook, and in restaurants, at least most restaurants, like when you grill things, it's over a gas grill, right? And so that's how I learned how to cook steaks to get the right color and stuff. So you draw a lot of flavor in that method out of the meat, the quality of the meat, and then the seasoning, and then the sauce, right? So that's the 3-step thing. You season it one way, you get a good quality piece of meat, you season the special way, and then you sauce it with your sauce. That's great. Now that I'm a home cook, I've been working a lot with charcoal grills, and I mentioned that with the desert island thing, but like, you know, a charcoal grill, whether it's the Bichaman Japanese style or just like the Weber kettle grill or whatever, I have produced some amazing flavors out of like something, it's like a wood smoke, right? And that adds that flavor to whatever you're cooking. Like I've roasted a whole leg of lamb on the charcoal grill, which is like fantastic. Whole roasted chickens on there. So if I had to choose one thing that is great for like grilling and roasting, it would be charcoal right now. And I still have this fantasy that at some point in my Toronto backyard, I'm going to build a brick oven that I can wood fire and make everything from pizza to lasagna to cake.
Yeah, well, you have a horrible influence on me. I finished a film in Hamilton the other day, and because I was called in late for the shoot, I had a few moments to go to one of my favorite restaurant supplies stores. I was going in for a thing you mentioned, a heat diffuser, so my tagine didn't crack, and a friend of mine didn't crack. But set up inside the door was the latest Uni pizza oven.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't need it, but I bought it. And it's because of the last time I saw you, ask me if I needed a Searsall. As King Lear said, oh, reason, not the need. My wife won't let me keep it in the house. She's that afraid. And for those of you on the call who don't know what it is, just buy Peter's book and get yourself a Searsall and go nuts. It's basically a salamander in your hand. And it's astonishing. And it's all his fault. And then I went and bought little... I have to leave the stuff outside. You're a terrible influence, Peter Sanagan. This has been an absolute riot. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to participate. If anybody has any last things to say, you got 60 seconds to pump it in. But other than that, I'll say tune in to our next episode for Peter's next book, Vegetables and How to Cook Them.
Thank you so much, Colm, and thank you everyone for joining. And I hope you have a great night. Enjoy the food, and yeah, I'll see you around. Absolutely.
Cheers, guys. See you, Peter.
Everybody. Bye.
Leave me.